RJ Barrett is an extremely polarizing player who clearly has talent, but perhaps isn't using that talent in the right places. So, what impact can Raptors fans really expect this player to have on this team's future? We're going to answer that in today's video. Let's get into it. This is Amateur Hour Sports, the YouTube channel completely dedicated to providing you with Toronto Raptors news coverage and analysis in videos just like this, as well as live stream watch parties. To keep up to date with all this great Raptors content, join the Amateur Hour army by subscribing to the channel and helping me on my road to 17,000 subscribers. And if you find yourself enjoying this video along the way, make sure to hit that like button. It really makes a difference to that YouTube algorithm. Let's try to find some more Raptors fans to join this amazing community, because today we are talking about RJ Barrett and what to expect from this player in his career with the Raptors going forward. He's still a very young player. He's a polarizing talent, as I said, but let's dive in a little bit more into the players so you know exactly what the Raptors are getting themselves into with the RJ Barrett experience. In the previous video on this channel, we talked about Immanuel Quickley, and in the same sort of vein, what can we expect from him from an impact standpoint going forward with this team? And I caught a little bit of heat in that video from some of this community for suggesting that the main piece, the centerpiece of the package that the New York Knicks sent us to acquire OG Anunoby, well, that centerpiece was Immanuel Quickley. Immanuel Quickley was the blue chip player in the trade. RJ Barrett was the add-on in the deal. And the reason I say that is because I'm not a super big fan of RJ Barrett's game at this present point. That does not mean things can change, but even so far with the Raptors, he's only played 2 games for the team, 2 wins, so pretty nice so far. He's had those flashes of brilliance, and he's had those flashes of, well, let's just call that the RJ Barrett experience with this team. So before we get into everything we want to know about RJ Barrett and perhaps project what his future could look like with the Raptors, let's talk about his current status, and his current status as far as the contract is concerned. RJ Barrett is making about $27 million per year on his contract. That's going to be for the rest of the season, the rest of this season, and for 3 additional years. This contract is a little bit expensive for RJ Barrett, but as the cap increases, perhaps as the players' talents start to increase, this contract isn't going to be a detriment to the team. This is one the Raptors can manage having on their books. And also, if it does come to it at some point in the next few years, I think it's a figure that the Raptors will be able to trade. Maybe not super easily, but it's not going to be a contract that's overly difficult to trade and is a problem to trade. So the contract, as far as the valuation here, probably will become sort of a neutral thing, I believe, for RJ Barrett and his abilities as a player. And also in his present stance as far as his abilities, well, again, it's been up and down for RJ Barrett so far in his career. It hasn't necessarily been up and down statistically. A lot of that has been the same, but it's just always been the question. Yes, there is just pure talent here, but is all of that talent going to the right places? Is the decision-making there to back up the talent with the player? Because we take a look here at the statistics, and yes, there are some pretty eye-popping numbers. Here's a player who's averaged 20 points per game at some point in his NBA career. So far this season, in 28 games, 2 of those games being with the Toronto Raptors, he's averaged 18.1 points, 4.5 rebounds, 2.4 assists. These numbers are fine for the guard forward, but where some bigger concerns come up is in the efficiency standpoint. RJ's been pretty consistent with his efficiency numbers so far in his NBA career, and this year's averaging a 42.5% field goal percentage, a 33.6% three-point percentage, but where we start to see those real alarm bells start to come in here is on the 2-point field goal percentage. RJ Barrett is shooting under 47% on 2s this season, and he has never in his NBA career had a season where he shoots above 50% on 2s. There was one season where he averaged over 40% shooting from 3 on over 4 attempts. That was in his second season, but if you go through his entire list of seasons, you go through his 3-point percentages, that's really the outlier here. Yeah, he's a young player. Yeah, he's done it before. At least there's a promise, hey, he's done it before. He's going to be a lot more able to do it again and replicate it, since we've already seen him accomplish this in the NBA. But more so, he's been in the lower side of the 30s in every other season in his NBA career. So you have to feel as though that's the norm and the 40% is the outlier. But as much as, 33.6% from 3 so far this season, clearly he's a player with the ability to shoot the 3, but it's just the 2-point percentage where the efficiency starts to come in and really starts to make me worry about this player. Now, granted, he's 23 years old. Efficiency comes with age. And as much as we're hyped up about the abilities of Immanuel Quickley and the potentials of Immanuel Quickley going forward, we have to remind ourselves here, RJ Barrett is younger than Immanuel Quickley. So if there's room to grow for these players, perhaps there is even more room to grow for RJ Barrett. And it feels as though there's a lot more natural talent associated with RJ Barrett's game. So it's exciting to have a player like this come to Toronto, especially a Canadian player local to the area, grew up in Mississauga. It's very nice to have a player like this coming to the Toronto Raptors as well. And it's really nice to see that even in the 2 games that he's played for the Raptors though so far, he's really bought into the team. Like, he's really hustling. He really works hard. He really wants to succeed out there. It's just, is all this talent and is all this energy going into the right places? Because even with 2 games here, we have been treated to the full RJ Barrett experience with the Raptors, where, yeah, there's going to be such amazing plays. There's going to be that contested 3 that he's going to make. There's going to be that slick move on the inside to get past the center to get to the rim. There's going to be those big rebounds that he had. Like, he had one massive rebound yesterday against the Memphis Grizzlies where he boxes out Xavier Tillman, then he pushes it in transition, finds a nice outlet pass to Scotty Barnes, which turns into a corner 3 for the Raptors. So there's all these great things associated with this game. And then there's the other situations. There is the contested 3 that's early in the shot clock that he didn't need to take. There is the putting his head down, getting a bit of tunnel vision going in the paint. There's 3 turnovers in like a 3-minute span while the Memphis Grizzlies are making a big push to get back in the game against the Raptors. So there's a lot of good, but there's a lot of bad associated with his game as well. So as far as an impact standpoint, firstly, let's discuss for what's going to happen this season and likely what to expect from RJ Barrett this season. I think we can start to expect more of the same for RJ, more of the same in terms of these statistics that we've seen this season. Perhaps a little bit of a longer leash could see him up that points per game total from 18. I think we can start to creep into the 19 and a half points per game because he's going to be getting perhaps a bit more opportunities here. Perhaps also opportunities with the second unit for the Raptors where maybe even a longer leash where he's able to do a little bit more with his game. But one thing I really like about him is that the Raptors started the season with very few players who had the ability to dribble penetrate, to get by that first defender, to start moving the defense around. Now we have a lot more. Like, Scotty Barnes is starting to develop into that. The spacing after this trade, the spacing this trade is provided is helping him do that. Siakam kind of in the same vein. The Schroeder's in this kind of the same vein. And Immanuel Quickley, clearly a player who can provide that dribble penetration. And RJ Barrett as well is a player who can do it as well and is clearly a pretty talented passer. But just one thing that I want to see improve from RJ from a dribble penetration standpoint. Yes, he can get by that first defender, but when he gets in the paint, it's a lot of head down. It's a lot of he's getting to the rim. And no matter what happens, no matter who's on, no matter who comes to help, RJ Barrett's getting to the rim. Now, he may not finish at the rim. He may not make a great pass when he gets to the rim, but sometimes he does. Sometimes he doesn't as well. So when he gets in the paint, a bit more composure, a bit of a change of pace, slow himself down, keeping his head up, making sure that the right decisions are available to him. But on top of that, also, I get he's not ambidextrous here, but he's a very dominant left-handed player. Can we start to see that right hand come into play a little bit more and those drives going to the right coming into play a little bit more? That's what I would want to see, especially for this season. But as the Raptors start to build going forward, I think RJ Barrett's role may need to start changing. We have to have a conversation about what is RJ's ceiling. Like, what would be RJ Barrett playing at his best in the NBA? Is that him taking a ton of shots, being a super big focal point of the team and averaging 22 points per game? Maybe they're not the most efficiently, but is that where RJ Barrett's at his best? Or is RJ Barrett at his best when his field goal attempts per game start to decrease a little bit, when his usage, on-ball stuff, start to decrease a little bit, but we really hone in on specific things that can make RJ Barrett a great player and specifically look to playing him as more of a 3-and-D sort of player. When the Raptors first made this trade, I likened a potential RJ Barrett career arc to that of Andrew Wiggins. One where, yeah, he comes on the gates as a very high draft pick. Andrew Wiggins went number 1 in the draft. RJ Barrett went number 3 in the draft. These are guys with clear talent, but perhaps they need to start meeting some shots that they don't like. At the present point, every shot they see, they like it. They want to take that shot on. When Andrew Wiggins got that move to Golden State, his role changed. All of a sudden, he didn't have to be that sort of star player. He was fine-tuned and used more as a three-point shooter, where his three-point percentage grew tremendously and taking better shots, and he grew as a defender, really focusing in on his abilities to be a great defender for that team, and it ended up working tremendously. He was a significant part of the Golden State Warriors winning an NBA championship. Some people even touted him at first to win the Finals MVP. At the end of the day, Steph Curry won it, and rightfully so. But What I'm trying to say is, can we hone in on those specific skill sets that make RJ Barrett talented, but just fine tune it and focus in on those things rather than kind of being, good at everything, but not necessarily excellent at one specific thing? Can we start to make RJ Barrett excellent at a few categories and maybe perhaps leave a little bit of that other stuff in the background? Those are going to be some conversations that the Raptors development staff is going to have here. Those are some of the conversations floating around as well for RJ Barrett and himself, wondering what's going to be the best for his output from a game-to-game standpoint. But the important thing is he's 23 years old. He's a very young player. Like I said, he's younger than Immanuel Quickley. So there's no sense of really rushing into this decision here. RJ Barrett, I think, ideally comes off the bench for the Raptors from a fit standpoint. But the Raptors, when this trade went down, it was very clear to me that they wanted Immanuel Quickley. RJ Barrett is a player they've added into the deal mostly for salary, but because they want to bet on his upside. They want to bet on how good this player can be, how impactful he can be for this team going forward. And the only way to really figure these things out and help him get to that upside, whatever it may be, is giving him as much game time as possible. Give him those starts. Give him all the tools to really let RJ Barrett express himself this season and just see what you have. Perhaps playing under Tom Thibodeau, playing in New York just wasn't a great fit for him. Perhaps it just wasn't a great system for him. So now that he can start to spread his wings that little bit more this team, just see what you have. Give him his minutes this season. Give him his starts this season. And yeah, you're going to have games like the one against Memphis where you're better off not closing with him because of the decision-making things, because of you sub him in for a defensive play and he fouls off the ball and gives Memphis free throws, decision-making like that you just can't have at the NBA level. So let's give him all these tools to succeed and see what he can do offensively and then start to work on fine-tuning his game perhaps. Perhaps not fine-tuning his game is the way to go. Perhaps letting him continue to be RJ Barrett and being just good at everything. Perhaps that's what you need out of the player. Perhaps the fit that you want out of the player next to Immanuel Quickley and Scotty Barnes. But one area specifically I think that can also stand to improve is that yes, he hustles. Yes, he's working hard, but he's not necessarily the best defender, despite having the body type and the size and the movement to be a great defender. Let's start to work on that part of his game as well and make him a real threat defensively. Make him a real matchup difficulty that other teams have to fear. That is what's going to keep him in the starting five for this team for the long haul. That's what's going to keep him impactful with this team for the long haul. There's clearly a ton of upside here with RJ Barrett. It's just how close can we get to that full potential here, because he was the #1 prospect coming out of high school in his year. He was a 3rd overall pick in the NBA draft. The talent is present. You see it. You see it. We've only had 2 games here, but you're seeing the glimpses of what he can do from a talent standpoint. But hone in on those abilities. Work on the development here. The Raptors coaching staff, head coach, all the way through the coaching staff here are development-oriented people. They want to see development. They want to work with these players. Well, here is a perfect project for this coaching staff to prove themselves, and it's a perfect opportunity for them to get more out of RJ Barrett. And perhaps the hometown bump is going to be a thing here that's going to help him elevate his game. Overall, much more excited about Immanuel Quickley joining his team and the fit for Immanuel Quickley in Toronto. But for RJ Barrett, once again, we're betting on upside here. The upside is there. Can the Raptors help RJ find that and make him a future star and make him a star player with his team going forward that fits seamlessly with Scotty Barnes to help take this team to the next level? Let me know your thoughts and opinions on that question in the comments down below, because that's it for me for today. Smash that like button if you enjoyed this video. Subscribe to Amateur Hour Sports for more Raptors content like this, as well as live stream watch parties. And I'll see you again soon for another video.